I drove 600 miles to celebrate the life growing inside my daughter. Her response was to call security and have me thrown out of her baby shower. I stood there in the cold March wind, hugging a handmade blanket to my chest, and felt something snap cleanly inside me. A quitclaim deed, my name scrawled in shaky letters, handing my duplex over to my daughter and her husband. I hadn't signed a thing. They had called security on me. I was about to call the courts on them. You already lost everything that mattered. You lost me.
Thank you, Marta, for being here today and trusting us with your story. I believe our audience will take an important lesson from what you've been through, so are you ready to share it with us?
Sure.
I drove 600 miles to celebrate the life growing inside my daughter. Her response was to call security and have me thrown out of her baby shower. She called me unstable. She forgot I was the one who paid the down payment on the very condo she lived in, the one she flaunted on social media like she had built it brick by brick. She forgot the hospital bills I covered, the car I co-signed, the credit cards I quietly paid off when the collectors circled. My next call wasn't to her. It was to a lawyer who knew exactly what to do when someone forged a parent's name on property records. Because my daughter was about to learn that betrayal written in ink has consequences written in court filings. My name is Marta de Leon, and at 67 my life had been a long ledger of sacrifices. I lived alone in a small paid-off duplex in Cleveland, Ohio, a modest brick house with peeling shutters and creaky floors, the kind of place where neighbors still borrowed sugar and argued about whose turn it was to shovel the sidewalk. I managed the hospital cafeteria for nearly 4 decades. It wasn't glamorous work, but it was steady. It paid for uniforms, cleats, braces, prom dresses. It buried my husband, Carlos, when a stroke cut him down at 55. It gave my only child, Lydia, a chance to chase dreams bigger than anything this neighborhood could hold. I thought my story would end quietly. Sunday church, knitting, maybe grandbabies to visit. But the truth is, the cruelest chapters of a life don't come when you are young and strong. They come when your hands shake, when your bones ache, when the very people you carried on your back decide you're expendable. Lydia was my everything, my world. I gave her more than I ever gave myself. When she wanted to study abroad in Madrid for a summer, I worked double shifts for half a year and drained $6,000 from the savings Carlos left. When her car broke down in college, I signed for a loan in my name because she didn't have the credit. When she and Evan wanted their first condo in Boston, a 2-bedroom unit in an overpriced development, the bank laughed at their application. No credit, no assets. Then she called me. Her voice was soft, desperate. "Mama, please, we just need a cosigner. Just a little help to get started." I didn't hesitate. I wired $40,000 from my retirement account for the down payment. I told myself it was an investment in her future. I told myself she'd remember. But children forget. Especially children who believe the shine of their new life makes the old life embarrassing. Months passed, calls got shorter, my visits were inconvenient. I saw their life through Instagram photos, Evan in tailored suits, Lydia laughing at rooftop brunches, weekends in Cape Cod. I was proud, yes, but I was also a shadow edited out of the picture. When I learned she was pregnant, my heart soared. Finally, I thought, a reason for us to be family again. A baby, my first grandchild. I wasn't invited to the shower. No envelope came in the mail. I only discovered the date because my niece tagged Lydia in a photo caption, "Can't wait for your big day." I spent weeks crocheting a white baby blanket, every stitch a prayer, every row a memory. I packed it in tissue paper, tied a ribbon around the bag, and at 4 a.m. I began the 600-mile drive to Boston. The drive was long but light. I sang hymns, I sipped coffee from a dented thermos, I let my heart imagine the moment her face lit up when she saw me walk through the door. Mothers can convince themselves of miracles. But what I walked into was not family, it was theater. The baby shower wasn't in a home. It was in a rented hall, walls dripping with rose gold balloons, champagne fountains on the tables, a 3-tier cake taller than a child. Women in designer dresses, men in polished shoes, strangers everywhere. I stood at the doorway, clutching my bag, my thrift store dress ironed but plain, and then I saw her, Lydia, radiant, perfect makeup. A fitted white gown that clung to her belly. She was glowing until her eyes found me. The glow cracked, the smile dropped. She froze for one long second. Then she turned to the event coordinator and whispered. The woman nodded, walked briskly across the room, and motioned to the guard at the door. He came over, big man, suit, professional face. "Ma'am," he said softly, "I'm going to have to escort you out." I laughed short and sharp. "I'm her mother." He didn't flinch. "I understand, but you're not on the list." Behind him, Lydia was shaking her head slowly, her hand pressed against her stomach like she was protecting the baby from me, protecting her child from her own mother. I didn't fight, I didn't argue. I let him walk me out, my gift bag still clutched in my hands. Guests turned their heads to watch, some whispering, some smirking. I heard someone ask, was that her mom? Yes, that was her mom, the woman she had erased. In the parking lot, the guard released my arm. He looked away, ashamed. "Sorry, ma'am." I nodded, "Not your fault." I sat in my car for a long time. The blanket lay on the passenger seat like a piece of my soul. The laughter from the hall carried faint through the walls, mocking. That's when I opened my phone. I went to the county recorder's website in Cleveland, just habit. I check every year to make sure the duplex taxes are clear, but what I saw made my stomach ice. A quitclaim deed, dated January 9, recorded by the clerk's office. My name scrawled in shaky letters, handing my duplex, my only security, over to Lydia and Evan. I hadn't signed a thing. Fraud, forgery, betrayal in black ink. And in that moment, the humiliation of being escorted out was replaced by something colder, cleaner, anger that doesn't scream, anger that calculates. I took screenshots, sent them to myself, texted my neighbor Ron to check if anyone had shown up at the house in January. He hadn't seen anyone. Then I called Deacon Thomas from church. He gave me the number of an elder law attorney. By the time I drove 2 exits down to a cheap motel, I already had a plan written in my notebook. Affidavit of fraud, police report, quiet title action, lease pendants, a wall of paper they couldn't climb. They had called security on me. I was about to call the courts on them. The motel walls were thin. I could hear a television in the next room and a baby crying down the hall. I lay on the bed fully dressed, the baby blanket folded beside me like a witness. I stared at the ceiling until the anger sharpened into clarity. This wasn't just humiliation, this was theft. Not just of respect, but of the very roof over my head. By sunrise, I had my plan written in a neat column in my notebook. Affidavit of fraud with the recorder. Police report for forgery. Quiet title lawsuit with a lease pendants. Call the Attorney General's Elder Justice Unit. I checked out of the motel, bought a strong coffee at the gas station, and started the long drive back to Cleveland. I didn't turn on the radio. I didn't need noise. I had the sound of my daughter's voice in my head. Remove her. That phrase was better than caffeine. By the time I pulled into my driveway, my neighbor Ron was waiting on his porch. He's 70, retired steelworker, sharp eyes that don't miss a thing. He waved me over. "Got your mail for you, Marta," he said, holding out 2 envelopes. One was from a bank I didn't recognize. The other was stamped change of ownership notification. He shook his head. "Something's fishy." "More than fishy," I said. "It's fraud." Inside, I sat at my old oak kitchen table, the one Carlos and I bought at a thrift store in '85, and spread out the evidence. Screenshots of the deed, the envelopes, my own ID. I dialed the number the deacon had given me. The lawyer, Marjorie Chen, answered on the second ring. Her voice was calm, no nonsense. I explained everything in 5 minutes flat. She didn't gasp. She didn't pity me. She just asked for the instrument number of the fraudulent deed. "All right," she said after typing. "This is forgery, plain and simple. We'll move fast. Affidavit of fraud goes to the recorder first thing. Then we file a complaint for quiet title with a lease pendants. That freezes the property. They can't sell, refinance, or touch it. Then we bring the forgery into court. And yes, Mrs. De Leon, this qualifies as elder financial abuse. Will involve the AG's office." Her calmness was better than sympathy. I told her I could pay the $2,500 retainer. She emailed me the affidavit draft that night. The next morning, I was at the courthouse by 8:30. The recorder's clerk stamped my affidavit like she had done it 1,000 times before. She didn't look surprised. That told me something. This wasn't rare. At the police station, an officer listened carefully, took my statement, and gave me a case number. He looked me in the eye. "Ma'am, don't worry, forgery doesn't vanish. We'll trace it." By Tuesday, Marjorie had filed the lawsuit. "They'll be served within the week," she told me. "Then the clock starts ticking." I thought I'd feel relief. Instead, I felt hollow. Because the question still hung heavy, why would my own daughter do this? I didn't have to wait long for her to answer. That evening, my phone rang, her number. I stared at the screen until the third ring, then I picked up. "Mama," her voice was tight, already defensive. "What are you doing? Evan just got served with papers at the condo. A sheriff showed up. Do you have any idea how embarrassing that was?" "Yes," I said. "I have some idea. Security removed me from your baby shower in front of strangers." She exhaled sharply. That was different. "No," I said, my voice steady. "It was the same. Both times you erased me." There was silence on the line. Then she tried again, softer. "We just needed the condo for refinancing. Evan's bonus was late, and the bank." "You forged my name," I cut her off. "That's not refinancing, that's a crime." "Mama, don't be dramatic. It's just paperwork. We were going to fix it later." "That's not how deeds work, and it's not how mothers work." Her voice hardened. "If you go through with this, you'll never see your granddaughter." There it was, the threat, the last card she thought she could play. I didn't flinch. "You made that choice already, when you told someone to remove me." I hung up before she could speak again. My hand didn't even shake. That night, I sat with Carlos's old papers. Deeds, mortgage satisfaction letters, tax receipts. I organized them into a folder labeled proof. No one takes my house. I slept well for the first time in months. By Thursday, word had spread. My sister Alma called. "Marta, I heard something going on with Lydia. Are you all right?" "I'm better than all right," I said. "I'm fighting back." She paused. "About time." The Attorney General's office called next. They assigned a case officer named Daniel. His tone was professional, clipped. "We take elder financial exploitation very seriously. We'll coordinate with your lawyer." And then came the knock. A process server, tall woman with sharp eyes holding an envelope. "For Lydia and Evan," she said. "Filed complaint." I watched her drive off and felt no guilt, only justice. Days later, I heard from Marjorie again. Their lawyer reached out. They're panicking. They know the deed won't hold up. They're going to try to negotiate. "Negotiate what?" I asked. "Probably to avoid criminal charges." I thought about it, about mercy, about being a mother. But then I remembered the hall, the security guard's hand on my arm, the whispers, the smirk. I remembered the forged deed, my name bent into a stranger's hand. "No deals," I said. "Let the record show the truth." And so it began. The legal storm moved faster than I expected. The Lees Pendens froze their condo deal. The bank pulled out of their refinance. Their credit cards came calling. And through it all, I stayed silent. I didn't call. I didn't answer. I let the courts do what they were built to do. It wasn't revenge, it was correction. And correction has a way of turning the proud into the desperate. The court date came quicker than I thought, 30 days from the day I filed. In legal time, that's a sprint. I dressed simply. Navy skirt, white blouse, clean shoes, nothing fancy. I carried my folder of proof, Carlos's original deed, mortgage satisfaction letter, tax receipts, the affidavit of fraud. Every page labeled, every signature clear. When I entered the courtroom, Lydia wouldn't look at me. She sat beside Evan, both of them in stiff clothes that looked rented, their lawyer whispering furiously into their ears. I noticed Evan's jaw clenched, his fingers drumming against the table like he was waiting for someone to rescue him. Lydia stared at her lap. The judge was a stern woman with gray hair pulled into a knot. She didn't waste time. She called the case. She looked over the filings. Then she looked directly at Lydia. "Did you or did you not sign your mother's name on a quitclaim deed, transferring her property without her knowledge or consent?" Lydia's voice trembled. "It was just paperwork. We were going to fix it." The judge cut her off. "Answer the question. Did you sign her name?" Silence, then a whisper. "Yes." The judge leaned back. "Forgery, fraud, elder financial abuse. The law is very clear. This deed is void ab initio. It never existed in the eyes of this court." She turned to me. Mrs. de Leon, your property rights are restored in full. I nodded once, thank you, Your Honor. But the judge wasn't finished. She turned back to Lydia and Evan. You two need to understand the seriousness of what you attempted. This isn't a family squabble. This is a felony. The prosecutor has the right to pursue criminal charges. Do you understand? Evan's face went pale. Lydia began to cry softly. The sound didn't move me. I had cried enough for both of us. The judge banged her gavel. Case closed. I walked out of that courtroom lighter than I had felt in years. The duplex was mine, as it always should have been. The law had spoken. My dignity was intact. That evening, Lydia called again. I let it ring twice before answering. Mama, please, don't let them press charges. Evan could lose his job, we'll lose everything. Her voice cracked. The old me would have rushed to soothe her. But the old me had been escorted out like trash. The old me had been erased from her own story. You already lost everything that mattered, I said quietly. You lost me. Mama, I was scared. We needed money, I thought. You thought I'd never fight back, I interrupted. You thought I'd stay silent, you thought wrong. I ended the call, blocked the number. Because silence this time was not weakness, it was a boundary. In the weeks that followed, the ripples spread. Their condo deal collapsed. The bank refused to refinance without me. Creditors circled. The baby shower photos disappeared from Lydia's social media. Friends drifted away. The glittering life she had built on illusions began to crumble. And me, I sat on my porch with a cup of tea and watched the seasons change. Ron mowed the grass out front. Alma came by with tamales. The upstairs tenants paid rent on time. The duplex stood firm, as it always had, because it was built on sacrifice and truth, not shortcuts and lies. One Sunday after church, Deacon Thomas asked if I regretted it. No, I said, because this wasn't revenge, this was correction, and correction is love even if it burns. He nodded slowly. Weeks later, I received a letter from the Attorney General's office. The case was officially closed. No charges would be filed, as long as Lydia and Evan signed a consent decree admitting the fraud and agreeing never to interfere with my property again. They signed. They had no choice. It was over. I never mailed the baby blanket. I folded it carefully and placed it in a cedar chest beside Carlos's old Union cap. Maybe one day, when that child is old enough to understand, I'll give it to her directly. Not as a gift from a grandmother she barely knows, but as proof. Proof that love endures, even when betrayal tries to erase it. I don't hate my daughter. Hate is heavy. I don't carry it. What I carry is clarity. Clarity that sacrifice without respect is not love, it is servitude. Clarity that silence can be dignity. Clarity that sometimes justice comes not with shouting, but with paperwork, with signatures, with a judge's gavel. They called security on me. I called the law on them. And in the end, the law listened. I am Marta de Leon, 67, widow, mother, survivor. The house is mine, my dignity is mine, and my story finally is mine again.